Greetings, Earthlings.
We are Johnita, Francis and Trish Rock, your empowerment influencers.
The no fluff conversations about life, environment, spirituality and freedom.
Thank you for joining us today for our 6th episode. And as always, we are sponsored by Holistic Bliss magazine.
We are.
Oh my goodness, here we are again, episode 6, and we've just had a little bit of pre-show fun.
I think Trish was just saying we need a blooper, and I think, oh my goodness, we'll probably sell out the bloopers. It'd be a bestseller.
If you knew what happened in the last 20 minutes.
Let's just say we're very talented when it comes to spirituality, not so much when it comes to technology.
Oh dear. So thank you everybody who is joining us live in our live audience, and thank you to everybody on the podcast who is listening to this episode on Buzzsprout, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or any of the other numerous platforms we are on. So we're back to the wheel of wisdom tonight.
We are. Right. Now let us all take a moment to pray.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
Let's do it, baby.
Let's do it. Let's put it up here in the screen so everybody could see. Let's see what our topic's going to be tonight.
All right. Let's go, Earthlings. No hand.
Fingers crossed.
Shit to shift.
Oh my.
Oh.
What
Ladies and gentlemen,
topic.
Grab your popcorn.
Shit to shift. Wow. We've just had 20 minutes of that. This is so interesting because I actually wrote a blog about this today, and just then before we came on, when I just popped off screen for a minute, I said, wow, I wonder if tonight will include, recuperating after different things that have happened, like what happened with us tonight. And there it is.
Oh, I like this topic. I always like the topics though, because they're just fun. They're thought-provoking, and they're actually right on time. It's divine timing. It really is.
Well, that's the card that you just pulled out for me to see before as well.
I'm going to turn one of the modern oracle cards is let that shit go, and I'm going to turn it into a coffee cup.
And now we're going to talk about it.
So if you see me on screen doing any of my live shows and you've got my coffee cup, let that shit go. I'm having a rough day. More of a reminder for me than for you.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's a perfect week to talk about this too, because we are in the new moon of Cancer. We're also in the sun sign of Cancer now, and I'm a Cancerian and very watery and emotional and all the rest of it. And sometimes we can really get caught up in all the crap that life presents and can go off on emotional tangents. And I know everybody can, but this actual week is really quite emotionally tender, I think. And you can just really go down that rabbit hole of old stuff that comes up when one thing turns to shit in your life, and then you pull it all in together.
Yeah, it's true. Then shit sticks.
Yeah.
So when something turns into shit, every bit of shit in the neighborhood comes along and sticks to it, and then you've got this big pile of steaming shit.
Yeah.
So how do we shift that? What are we going to do to shift it? We can sell it. I mean,
well, this is where empowerment comes in, doesn't it? And actually, I've got the meaning of empowerment here because I wrote a blog about it today. So let me pull that up for you. The meaning of empowerment is make someone or make stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their life and claiming their rights. And I think that really is a great explanation of how you shift.
Yeah.
Is to really make yourself stronger, more confident, control your life and claim your rights. Now, what does that mean? It really just means breathing in and not going down the rabbit hole, and bringing yourself back to the moment and doing something to shift your mood, your circumstance, mood, I was going to say mood, but I said that already. Your anger, your hurt, your pain, do something to shift it. And so I've got quite a few tools to do that, as I'm sure you've got as well.
Absolutely. You go first.
Yeah. Okay. So,
You're in it. I just
um,
happy to listen to you talk.
yeah. Oh, Rosie's going to answer that
Ooh,
for us.
you're bossy.
Um, so I think the first thing really is to get into the now, and if this is, obviously you can have just moments during the day that kind of turn to shit, or you can really be in a situation that is quite bad. Let's talk about just the moments first, because there are other things like, my life was pretty shit for about 4 years. So, how did I shift that? Well, that's another story. But I think we can maybe talk about some minor daily in the moment shifts first. Yeah. And I know you've had some big shifts in your life too, but to empower people in the moment, I think, is really important before it goes down into that big rabbit hole and they've got to crawl their way up out of the mud. So get yourself present in the moment, breathe into it. And I'd really like to just ask myself, is it true? Like what I'm feeling right now, is it true? And if you're not in the mood to do that, because sometimes you're not, if it's really bad stuff, then you really just need to take time out and breathe, go to nature, write something, go to sleep for 10 minutes, do something to break the thought pattern, because the thought pattern will just spiral you down further and further. And then you'll start in that tornado of thought. It's like when a tornado goes through a street, it'll start picking up things from all around it, and the cow goes flying up and the car goes flying up. So if you're caught in this whirlwind of thought and heading downstream, downhill, you're just going to pick up all sorts of other things around you as well. So, and it just gets worse. So really come to the present moment, however you can do that at the time. If you have to walk out of the room, if you have to go and take a few breaths and lock yourself in the loo for 2 minutes to get away from the kids or whatever, or the work. So that's the first thing. Just disrupt the thought somehow. And then how do you shift? I really feel the best way is to take action on something. Mm-hmm. It moves you forward, and it starts your mind thinking about something else. But if it's really bad, like if it's a judgment or a criticism, and if you're falling into that big rabbit hole of I'm not good enough, shit, you can then start asking yourself, well, yeah, I may not be good at that, but what am I good at? What have I achieved this week? What did I achieve yesterday? And work your way out that way. But empowerment takes resolve to do. You have to, it's a deliberate action. Action. So so that's what I would suggest in the moment.
Yeah. It reminds me of a case I was working with recently, and this lady was quite frantic, and she's very educated, very smart, and smart and educated are very different things.
Yeah.
And she said to me, all these things are going wrong in my life, and I want them to pay for what they've done to me, and I want them to go through this, and I want them to hurt. And I'm thinking, these people are going to sleep every single night happily. They don't give a shit about you or your problems or your life or how much they've impacted you. And every
Yeah.
single day you give all of your energy, all of your anger, all of your emotion, all of your focus to a bunch of imbeciles that don't deserve it.
Yep.
Now, the shit that she needed to shift was her own mindset. And I worked with her for months with this, literally months. And I finished up saying to her, I am no longer enabling you to play the victim.
Yep.
You've got two choices. You need to make a commitment and a promise to yourself to park your need for vengeance, to give it over to the universe, and to let that shit go.
Yep.
And from now on, from this point forward, I only want you to talk to me about all the great things that we can celebrate together.
Yep.
I don't want to listen to the past because the past is the line is drawn in the sand. And she said to me 5 minutes later, I get it now. I'm like, it's been 5 minutes later. You haven't got it now. I'm sorry that you haven't. You can't do this for months and months on end. You might have had an aha moment, but empowerment is not a switch that flicks on. It does
No.
get there eventually,
Yeah.
but you've got to have the right wiring. You've got to have the light bulb engaged. You've got to have
Yeah.
it turned the right way. You've got to have the right type of light bulb in there. You've got to
Yeah.
have all these extra things and the little steps in the process of empowerment and getting that aha moment. And that's
Mm.
why a lot of us take so long to get there. But
Yeah.
if you can train your brain to look at all the little things, the day to day stuff, and deal with those properly so that you don't get so fatigued or so angry that you erupt or you cry or you scream or you're mad with the wrong people at the wrong time or you just break down the
Yeah.
supermarket because you can't find Vegemite.
Yeah.
So it's dealing with the little bits of shit every single day that helps us to shift it. Now,
Mm.
I have no doubt in my mind that this lady was working with will be able to shift this,
Mm.
but she is holding space for all the imbeciles in her life that have created this. And yes, they were horrible human beings to her, and yes, they devalued her, and they did all those things. And that doesn't mean that they get away with that. But what it does mean is I only care about her and her quality of life.
Yes.
And while she's giving so much focus to that shit, she's never going to shift.
No, that's exactly right. And I think my mentors back, during that 4 years of my shitty life were tearing their hair out as well and had flat foreheads because I just wouldn't get it. I
I had
just
a brick
didn't get
imprint
it.
for a long time. Like, why am I so stupid? I can give this advice so easily to everybody else. What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Because you do,
Yeah.
and you're able to see it so much clearer when you're out of it because it's
Yeah.
not your emotion. But
Absolutely.
when you're living it yourself, it's really, really difficult. I found it very
Really
difficult.
difficult. Yeah, really difficult. And that is the thing too when you're working with clients, they're not always in that mind space to turn each moment around during the day, but just to kind of do it slowly, bit by bit. And it's the awareness, isn't it? It's being awake and aware.
Yeah.
And am I feeling good right now? Yes, great. Am I feeling good right now? No, I'm feeling like shit. Okay, let me just pull myself up right now. Why am
Yeah.
I feeling that way? And how can I think something differently? Because it's really about thinking something differently and not thinking about the external that
Yeah.
are causing you to feel like crap, because they're not. We've got our own choice as to how we feel, but as you've said, when you're in it, it's
Really hard. It is.
it's
And Abraham
really,
Hicks captured the emotion guide or the and what it's all about is your top seven emotions, and that eighth emotion is boredom. And I know that when I'm
mm,
bored, my mind goes, "Whoa, what bullshit can we make up? Let's think about this. Remember that time in 1971 you went in a
yeah,
rocket, but you're already doing this?" And our minds play over and over, and we get caught on a merry-go-round.
yeah,
But I can either get sucked into thinking about how shitty my life was previously and go, and you it dredges up all those emotions, or I can make a conscious decision to go, yeah, you know what, it kind of does feel like that, but I don't live there anymore, and I'm smarter now, and I'm not going to make those same mistakes again.
yeah,
And I've got boundaries in place, and I've got steps in place to protect myself from these situations. So, yep, I'm getting a little bit triggered, but I'm choosing not to allow this to impact my decision today.
yeah. It's a
And it's a
choice.
conscious decision. It is,
Yeah.
and it's not always that easy, and it certainly wasn't that easy at first because I still wanted to throat punch every second person that annoyed me. But over the years, now I'm happily, hand on heart, will say that I only want to throat punch every 20th person. So I've come
Yeah.
a long way. But we're still here for the human experience, and I
Yeah.
still know, and what I've learned is about things that trigger me and things that upset me and things that evoke an emotion in me. And but now, instead of me acting impulsively on that emotion, I've actually shifted that shit that I was dealing with before. So now I go, you know what, I know why lies upset me so much.
Yeah.
but I don't have to allow that lie to impact my life and consume me the way it was not that long ago, because I had to deal with a really
Mm.
horrible situation where someone was just lying every single day. And I wake up every single day as an opportunity to have a new day. We're born again every single day. So I want to try something. So I don't have grudges or live in the past, but this person was doing the same thing every day. So
Yeah.
it was really hard for me to put everything into practice that I had learned. So the
Yeah.
only way I could do that was shift away. It wasn't me that was lying. So at the end of the day, I still got to sleep well, and I still got to have my integrity in check. So I needed to let it go that this other person was lying as much as they were. And that was
Yeah.
really, really hard because I really struggle with dishonesty, really struggle with it.
Absolutely, but you could have gone down the rabbit hole of the whole victim thing there too, and
Yeah,
and I think it's good that we know what triggers us, because that's normally something emotional kind of triggers me, um, but it's just knowing, it's the awareness of, you
yeah.
know what, I'm allowing this situation to make me feel like shit. I'm not going to allow that anymore, and it doesn't
Exactly.
always change the situation. Actually, very rarely changes the situation. It
The lie
just
still tells
change
lies.
it does, yeah. It just changes how we react, and ultimately our energy and how we feel. And that that then not only helps us have a better day, but helps us send out the right energy to everybody else,
Yeah.
and not pull it all into, you
Not
know,
become our own little tornadoes.
no, that's right.
Yeah.
And this month in Holistic Bliss magazine, the magazine for July, which has just been released, it's about magic and miracles, and there's some really great tips in there for everybody to really come back to awareness, come back to center. Don't let the circumstances or the opinions of other people turn your day into shit.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
There's things that you can do, and whatever resonates with you. What I do resonates with me, what Johnita does resonates with her, and I think we attract clients that are kind of similar to us, so we can then give our methods to them to help as well. But here's the other thing too, Johnita, because I do work with a lot of conscious leaders. So even people who are conscious and awake, like you and I, we still get triggered. It never
Oh yeah.
ends.
Oh yeah. Every day. Every day.
Yeah,
It's
it
just that
never
only one in
ends.
20 people want to get throat punched now. But
and then every once a week you do a throat punch for me. So that's really awesome.
got you covered, girl.
Yeah. But some people kind of think, oh well, once I'm empowered and awake, you know, the shit won't come on into my life. Well, it does.
It comes more to see if you're on target with your commitment to your spiritual evolution.
Exactly. And that's really what it is. And that's actually like the card that I pulled for you the other day. The
Yeah.
spirit, the physical life is what expands our spiritual life. And if we're not experiencing things in the physical that push our buttons, we're
Yeah.
not expanding spiritually. So
Exactly.
ultimately we have to see it as a blessing, even though it's shit at the time.
Yeah. Once upon a time, I would have told Trish where she could shove that blessing, but I have since worked out that I've learned a lot about myself, and
Yeah.
especially with the dishonesty situation I found myself in, because I've
Mm.
learned that how much it was angering me and how much it was impacting on my life. And it got to the point that I was actually having nightmares, which is just huge because I'm not an emotional person. I'm not sensitive Sally or anything like that. No offense to
Mm.
Sally's, but um, I have a very masculine approach to dealing with things. So the fact that this was upsetting me to the point that I was having nightmares about it means that it was impacting on my sleep and on my sleep and my rest state. So
Mm.
I had two choices. I wasn't allowed to physically harm this person. So I had to come up with something else.
Yeah.
And I have a giggle about the physically harm because most people know what my childhood was like. And, everybody that I lived with used physical or violence in one form or another to get their point across. So I got through all of that. I came out the other side of that. But this dishonesty thing, it was still very much a trigger for me. And If I, even though I've done all this work in so many areas and I'm not angry about so many different things that were angering me before, I still had this dishonesty thing, and living with it every single day, 5 days a week, was overwhelming to say the least. But I've
Mm,
learned so much about myself and how I could get my head around that and how I could not let it impact me. So I'm
yeah.
zen as fuck and I was still learning. So don't think that you get to this awareness of your third eye engaged and you turn into some yogi and problems just disappear.
No.
No way. And if someone tells you that they do, they're telling you porkies. I can tell you now, because they
They
don't.
are.
It's just your reaction to them
Yeah,
changes. The fact that
absolutely.
you get the challenges doesn't change.
And there are a lot of humans who actually are still alive but have basically died. They're not living life and they're not putting themselves in situations that expand them at all. So, they're some of them are just kind of living a robotic life and not getting the buttons pushed too much. But when you start this spiritual growth, I guess, you will get more buttons pushed. And I guess that's the fear for some people. It's like, oh, it's hard work. But it's really not hard work. It's actually freedom. It really is freedom to be able to, no matter what comes at you, to feel good within yourself. It's
Yeah.
really so much freedom to be empowered that way. And
Yeah.
there's no way you and I would have got to this place without all the shit that's been thrown.
Yeah.
So,
So right now, I'm very grateful for your friendship and all the shit that I had to endure to get you as a friend. Doesn't seem so bad
oh,
now.
oh my goodness. So yeah, look, there's big, and I really think if you've got something really big to shift, if you really do feel like your head is under the mud and you just can't even, lift a finger out of it, seek help and seek somebody who can help you step by
Yeah.
step, because there are times when you can do it yourself and there are other times when you really can't. And Johnita and I see people as well, right? We
Yeah.
we don't have all the answers. Well, we just don't take on our own teachings. This is pretty typical of everybody. But we all seek help because we don't take our own advice. And, there comes a point where you just can't find a way mentally to get out of some of it. And you really need to just ask a friend or ask a mentor or a coach or something, because a simple exercise can save you so many hours, days, weeks of feeling hopeless. And
Yeah.
it's, the sooner you can find a solution, the better.
Yeah, it's like that. I know. And often when we're talking to mentors or our friends and they're saying blah, 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 and I'm like, I know. And you actually do know,
Yeah.
but you need to turn that I know into I do, because
Yeah.
you know what you need to do. It just sucks balls that you have to do it. But if you do it,
Yeah.
you come out the other side, and there's nothing in this world that is more humbling than being able to high five yourself in your mind because you've just handled something beautifully that 5 months ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have even thought about
Yeah.
handling like that, like conflict resolution or putting your boundaries in place or saying no to your boss.
Mm.
Tiny little wins that you can have that are so
Yeah.
empowering for you. And that little jig that you do when it's come together for you and you've done it with elegance and style and grace, not like me,
Mm.
then it's empowering, and it's the best. It is an addictive feeling knowing that you have grown from something and you'll want more of that. And it's a little bit scary at first when you first step foot out on, finding out who you are. That's what your
Yeah.
spiritual journey is. Who am I? And
Mm.
remembering everything that you are about yourself and why you were here. A tiny little first step is the scariest part, but that empowering feeling becomes addictive
Yeah.
rather, and you'll want more and more of it. And it's the coolest addiction you'll ever have in your life is learning about yourself.
Absolutely, and being able to shift in the moment. And yeah, and look, it's even the little things. So, a couple of things that happened to us before the show started, right? With lighting, with color. I was bright orange, not here.
You
So
look like an Oompa Loompa.
we had to
It was
sort
great.
that out, and then we couldn't get the wheel up, and then all these things just happen, and we could have just you know, kind of just gone, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. But, you know, you just do it. You just empower yourself to go, well, it's going to be okay. It'll work out. And then, you know, Johnita's IT spirit came in and fixed something. And
bingo. So I did what every Zen person would do. I abused him because I needed him 6 months ago to fix this problem.
yeah,
But then I remembered that I'm very grateful because I don't want him to do something to my computer.
that's it. You wouldn't have appreciated it 6 months ago, Johnita, you see. So
Well, this is true. This is true.
So yeah, so that's been an interesting topic, and I guess really we could talk about that forever, because there's degrees, there's such big degrees of moving from shift to shift. There's the small ones like we just experienced, and there's the big ones, the big heaviness of life when you really, you know, stuck underwater. But all of them require a decision for something different. All of them require a decision. And even if, so for instance, with me, with that 4 years, I mean, I made the decision that I wasn't going to live like that anymore, but it still took me a good couple of years to start putting things in place, right? But as soon as you're conscious, you start. And I was in that victim mode, and even now I still fall back into it every now and again, but I pick myself up out of it immediately because I know that what it feels like. So, so you know, it's a conscious decision to say, right, I've got to change this. What can I do, or who can I see?
Yep, got to check yourself. I did the same thing when I was attracting the same style of man into my life, and I knew that, okay, I hadn't been taught nurturing or love or any of those things that normal people are taught in a majority of cases. But I also knew that there were good men out there because my friends were married to them, or my friends were dating them, or, you know, people had them as brothers or fathers or uncles. I'm thinking, well, you know.
So you knew it was possible. You knew it was possible.
So I needed to work out. Now, all these three, I've only had 3 boyfriends besides my husband. He's number 4. And so none of them looked the same. None of them acted, well, they were all abusers in some sense, but that was me trying to break cycles as well. In hindsight, thank you very much. I know that now. But I knew that I was the common denominator. And that was not even a victim moment for me, or a sad moment, or a scary moment. It was like, I am the only person that is linked in each of these situations. So what do I need to do to change myself, to change my growth, to change the vibe that I'm putting out there, so I don't attract this style of man again? Because I don't want any more abusers. I've had enough. And I went out and I said to the universe, right, send me somebody, because I think I've got all the answers, but I keep attracting dickheads. So clearly I don't. So please send me an expert. And they sent me an astrotherapist, and he taught me about astrology, and he taught me about my 7 sub-personalities. And don't even get me started on astrology, because it's my favorite subject in the entire world. And he taught me why I was attracting this style of man. And I made a conscious decision to do whatever it took so I would not attract that style of man again. And it's a huge improvement. Terry still drives me crazy, probably about 6 times in the 6 years that we've been together. But I know a lot of that is my fear around what's happened in the past. So there's still some insecurities for me that I'm working through as well. And still some fear around different things, but it's getting less and less frequent. So I know I'm learning from it, I'm growing from it, and now I'm able to actually go back and say, oh, hang on a minute, honey, this is what's going on for me. This is where my mindset's at, you know, what's going on here. I would never have done that before, because the first one would have beat me. The second one would have, you know, cried and cried and cried and made him out to be the victim and made me out to be the meanie. And number 3 would have given me the silent treatment for weeks on end. So
but see, if you but see, if you get back into that shit in your own mind and in your own energy, then that affects, you know,
all that comes back.
Yeah, it really does.
And whether Terry's even, like, Terry might be doing one tiny little thing, and all of a sudden he's like all 3 boyfriends rolled into one.
He's like collateral damage to your shit. But, you know, you made the conscious choice for the universe first, didn't you? It's like, right, I'm done. I'm making a conscious choice bring me what I need and
Exactly.
go from there. And it has to be baby steps sometimes,
Yeah.
with the bigger things. But, you know, the skill of, I think it's a skill of empowerment is really being conscious in the moment. And
Yeah.
then you can shift anything
Yeah. Yeah. Got to
because it's all in here. It's all in here. So,
Yeah.
all right, are we just about done for episode 6, I think? That was
Episode shit. Well, that's what I thought you said, but clearly you didn't.
no. And
It's my favorite word.
yes, and we'll have to put a shit alert up on the description.
Before we get
Oh dear.
censored. I should come. Is there swearing in this video? There's Johnita is in this video. I don't understand the question.
That's right. Oh
All
gosh.
right, guys. So
All
thank you
right.
again for joining us on this episode. Remember, you can join us live on Facebook, on our Facebook page, A Guided Life Podcast, and you can also
Absolutely.
subscribe to the podcast through Buzzsprout, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and many more. Did I get that right?
You did. You're reading the screen, aren't you?
I did. How can you tell? I thought it was not being obvious. I can't remember that. My mind goes too fast.
Oh dear. So yeah, thank you everybody, and thank you to our live audience for coming along. We will go through your comments shortly and appreciate them all. And we look forward to seeing you or having you listen to us next episode.
We do indeed. Thanks very much. And thanks to our sponsor, Holistic Bliss Magazine. You can catch them online. And Trish and I are regular haunts there. So please do check out our articles along with a host of many more.
Absolutely. You're brilliant. All right. Thanks, everybody.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.